This episode is brought to you by Amazon. Sometimes the most painful part of getting sick is the getting better part. Waiting on hold for an appointment, sitting in crowded waiting rooms, standing in line at the pharmacy, that's painful. Amazon One Medical and Amazon Pharmacy remove those painful parts of getting better with things like 24/7 virtual visits and prescriptions delivered to your door. Thanks to Amazon Pharmacy and Amazon One Medical, healthcare just got less painful.
Welcome to another episode of Horror Movie Night. This week, Kyle, Scott, and I are talking about a movie that Scott picked from 1990, a sequel to a movie I think we talked about almost 5 years ago now.
Celebrating 35 years?
35 years? Why, it's an anniversary special here on Horror Movie Night. Scott, tell us why you picked The Gate 2.
Okay, so I don't know what the specific reason why this... Okay, well, I know the reason why this got picked. I don't know the reason why it was on my list. Now, the original plan was that we were going to kick off the year with our first intra-host pick, if you want to call it that, with Turbo Kid. And then some horrifying allegations came out about one of the writer-directors. And I was like, fuck that, we're never talking about that movie again. Now, The Gate 2... The Trespassers has been on my list for a long list for years. It was near the top, and I was like, sure, why not? And then, was behind the curtain for the listeners, we started talking about anniversaries, and it got me, the crazy bastard that I am, thinking about, could we do an entire year's worth of HMN doing only anniversary movies, which are at 5-year intervals. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, such. I don't know if it's going to happen, but we're going to do the bulk of this year doing anniversaries. And so this was kind of like a happy accident. So The Gate 2, The Trespassers. You know that ya boy, me, loves a part 2. I would not put this on my list
Especially
of part 2s that are as good or better than the original, but it's still a fun ride.
I think, like, especially part 2s that, like, I don't mean to say that The Gate is undeserving of a sequel. I think it was unexpected.
The Gate was unnecessary. The Gate 2 was unnecessary. No one asked for this.
Nobody asked for this, but by golly, I'm excited that it exists.
Is this your first watch?
This is my first watch, and I've actually only ever seen The Gate once before, and it was difficult to try to find a drink for this at this time of year. There's not a lot of demonic or metal drinks that are out. There was a few black lagers that I was thinking of, but I just went with Arnica because it had sort of like a goat man, Black Phillip looking guy on here from Tox Brewery, which is a consistent favorite of mine.
You know, I think Tox is our most picked brewery on this show. I think that there have been almost 10 episodes with us doing a Tox.
When you cracked open Tox over there, it shook me to my core. I was so excited, and I think that you've done more than one by now. They just opened up a brand new brewery. They used to be in Little Shack.
Connecticut?
Now they're in Connecticut. They are 2 towns over from me in New London, Connecticut. Sorry, don't try to find me. But shit, just gave that away. But no, they just opened up an amazing new tap room. Their whole thing is this poison dart frog. They have 4 They have 4 habitats for dart frogs within their brewery, which is so cool. My boy Hunter loved it.
I'm coming to visit.
When you come up east next time, we're gonna go to Tox. They have wood fire pizza. They got the huge space now. It's right next to like one of my favorite record stores. It's great. Anyway, that's my drink. Scott. Oh, I heard that. What do you got over
there? Last week we didn't get our opens. We got our clinkies. But I had a hard time with this one too. I was originally going to go with this Hefeweizen, I think it is, that I have. But I was going to use that like back 4 months ago or something like that for something. Oh, I was going to do it for the church when we did the church
yep.
with Jordan Morris, and Kyle was off, and we didn't do a drink that week. And then I was like, and I tasted it after the fact, and I was like, I hate this beer. It's awful. And I mean, so the other 3, because there was a 4-pack that I think I got at Trader Joe's or something. I was like, no, I don't really want to drink this. So I saw those. And I was like, that would be a real alley-oop gimme. But those are probably just going to languish in the beer fridge until like my brother-in-law drinks them, because he'll drink anything.
Yes.
So I went with Unicorns Aren't Real from Pipeworks Brewing Company in.
Oh yeah, they're in Chicago. No, they're.
I think Chicago, Illinois.
Chicago,
I have no idea. It's great. It's is that a hazy? It's just a Citra Mosaic Simcoe. It's like a triple IPA.
Good
but
mix.
It's delightful. Definitely better than the Hell German beer, because I hate the way those that yeast makes beer taste.
Yeah.
So actually last night in bed, Megan and I were talking about like, what are your bucket list countries to visit? And, obviously Ireland is number 1 for both of us. And she's been more places than I have. And I was, kind of like listing off some things. Some interesting places came to mind that I hadn't really thought about before, like Italy. Like, I was like, sure, I'd love to see Venice. You know what place I really don't want to go to is Germany. Like, I would fucking hate their beer. I would hate their food. I would be the culture's great. But, I would have the hardest time sustaining myself in that country, because I just don't like the flavor profile. So anyway, let's talk about The Gate 2, The Trespassers.
Yeah, everybody in this movie loves Germany, clearly.
Yes. So I'm not in good company. This movie is supposed to be 5 years after the last one, right?
Yes.
That's what I read on Wiki, but
it's only 3 or 4 years after the movie, right? Like,
so
the Gate was 87.
I think it's 3 years after the Gate, but it's supposed to be 5 years after the events of the Gate. But he also said 2 years. Terry from the first movie, the nerd who loved heavy metal and D&D, who basically was kind of he was the neighbor who really made
he was the
shit happen.
sidekick. That's the crazy thing to me.
That's what I love about this.
Yeah,
I love that. I love that the sidekick. But the thing is that Terrence, we're gonna give him his roses, and we're gonna call him Terrence because he prefers to go by Terrence in this film. Terrence in the first movie was kind of the reason why the whole movie happened.
Yeah,
Like, he's kind of the asshole from the last movie, and he starts this movie being in the asshole again, because he's like, we get this voiceover where Terrence is talking to his drunk dad, his alcoholic dad, who's passed out on the lazy boy, because it's 1990 and everybody had a lazy boy in 1990, and he's like, it's really hard to believe the world almost ended on our block, and he's like, and that's why I gotta do this, Dad. And so he pats his dad on the shoulder, takes his pet gerbil or guinea pig or whatever across the street. He sets up his techno ritual. I don't know if that's a real word, but I'm going to call it a techno ritual.
I think that's a fair. It's
such an 80s thing, right? The merging of technology and black magic. Such an 80s thing.
Which I have to just say real quick while we're talking about this. There's a idiom that I use all the time. Someone's called me out before for using it too much, but it's never been more appropriate to use right now. I love how this movie just starts running right out the gate.
Worth it, Matt.
Worth it.
I'm going to just throw this out there. I think I like this movie more than the original Gate, because there's no wasted time.
Yeah.
It is just like, here's our setup. Watch a bunch of fucking stop motion minions and chaos for 90 minutes. Like,
the only thing that I would argue is that this movie has a bit of a house to lull.
Yeah.
In the middle, where it gets a little fantastical. Now, The Gate has worse pacing, I agree, but it has more horror to it. This movie is a lot more like Monkey's Paw kind of shit.
Yeah.
literally. And we'll get to that. But
Yeah.
I think that they both work in different ways. Like, this movie is not a bad watch. It's like
it was a fun,
93 minutes.
easy breezy watch.
Yeah, it's not hard to watch, but it is funny because so much happens in the first 40 minutes that you're like watching it, and if you're watching it without like your progress bar, you're like, damn, so much has happened. Where are we in the movie? And then you pull up your progress bar and you're like, holy shit, there's so much more left to go.
I had that moment.
I
I'm
figured
like,
as much.
no, that
I'm
was-
like,
I
we
did
must
too.
be an hour through this movie, and then I'm like, 40 minutes.
40 minutes. Yeah. Dad's now in a coma, and it's just been 40 minutes.
Yeah, hasn't even hit the halfway mark yet.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so let me do my best. I mean, I apologize to the listeners. I'm sure you're used to this by now, that I am not good at synopses for
No,
movies that I
stop
cover.
it, Scott.
Stop.
This is
giving
your
them
one.
They're
This is my
turning
chance.
off their thing
New
by
year.
you telling them it's going to be bad. You got to just go in with
I'm
confidence.
not saying it's going to be
and-
bad. I'm
Matt's
just
gonna
going to say
edit that
it's,
shit out.
Yeah.
it's
He's done.
a little too much detail. So let me try to give less detail. First off,
Sure.
best line in the movie: Satanism is for pussies.
No,
the
number one,
wimpiest
baby.
dude saying that is just awesome.
And then being like, no, demonology is where it's at.
Yeah,
It's like, okay,
demonology
go play
is
some more
sexy.
magic. Nothing against magic.
Satanism
I
is
just,
for cucks.
Yeah.
Go sit on the chair, and watch me do some demonology. I mean, it works. Liz is into it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Gets her
Which-
like that.
yeah.
Did you
I mean,
guys
no, gets almost the whole
recognize Liz?
gang.
Okay, we're gonna talk about that in a second. Do you
Okay.
want to talk about who she is now?
I mean, she's probably more famous for her voice than anything
Yeah,
else.
she's the voice of Bobby fucking Hill.
Yeah, voice of Bobby
Crazy.
Hill. Yep. She's the voice of Bobby Hill. She's the voice of Spigoli on Recess, Moose
Yep.
on Pepper Ann. She also, again, I think this is the second
me so
week in a
happy.
row that I've brought up someone that is beyond canceled. But she also was the co-creator and played the on-again, off-again girlfriend of Louis C.K. on his show Louis.
Gotcha.
That's not her fault, though.
That's not her fault. But I have to say, she's aged gorgeously already.
Yes.
But she looks great in this movie too. Playing, I did the math. She's like 33 playing this high schooler in this
Oh
movie.
my
or
God.
something.
No
she was
wonder-
like in her
okay.
late 20s, early 30s, and I was like, holy crap. Like,
I
I mean,
love
she
the
was- she
fact
was
that
like
that
textbook
actually
Kyle Crush,
dovetails
for
even
sure.
better into you and me talking about your what did you watch later than
Right,
what
Jose,
I was actually going to dovetail it
I
doing.
added
So
10,
I'm not going to talk about
I
that
added
now.
10 years, but she was 25 when she was in this movie.
Still,
Because I saw that
still,
she was
I feel
born
a
in
lot
the
better.
60s and this was 1990. I was like, all right, so she's definitely older than this character that she's playing, but she looks believably the age that
and,
they
and
are
she's
pitching
gorgeous.
her as.
Like her hair is perfectly coiffed.
Yeah.
she's just an absolute
and
doll.
she's
Love
just
her so much.
super into
And
demonology.
she's into demonology.
I mean, dude, my absolute kryptonite right there. If she listens to pop punk, it's like I'm done. You know?
Dunzo.
Yeah, all Scott needed was her to be like, do you like ska? And he would just be like, yeah.
No, that's when you know it's a total fantasy movie.
That's right. That's
That
a
even
dream.
my
That's a
wife
dream
likes
scene. That's
ska.
a dream
Yeah.
scene for sure. Well, I just love how quickly everybody bought into this techno ritual that you're talking about,
Yeah.
Scott. I
It's
just like
great.
everybody
Okay,
was
so,
like, okay,
so
we're in.
I'm sorry. For the uninitiated.
No, we got excited.
Terrence is doing this ritual alone, about to murder his own pet, to reopen the gate, because what he's trying to do is he's trying to fix his life by getting wishes granted by the evil energies of the unholy trinity that sit on the other side of the gate, kind of like these, eldritch horrors that live outside of time and space. He is interrupted by John, who is the typical greaser asshole from the early 90s, Mo, his bumbling idiot best friend, and then John's girlfriend Liz, who is the woman we have been speaking of, cutie patootie times 10. They stop the ritual only to restart it once Liz explains that she's totally into this. And so Terrence almost doesn't go through with it, and then John's like, let me help you. He decapitates Terrence's pet. Blood sprays on Terrence's face. A little minion that you may remember from the first Gate movie pops up, and in his fright, John fucking shoots him with a gun that he just has.
It made me laugh so hard because it's so quick.
Yeah,
It's
I'm
like
like,
the demon
where's
shows
your
up.
gun coming from?
So good. good.
Then they're like, fuck this. This is too real, but also absurd. And so John and Mo leave, and obviously Liz, the set upon girlfriend who doesn't want to be dating John, leaves with them. Terrence doesn't believe that he should leave the body of the minion in his friend's ruined home. And so he takes it home and puts it in a massive jar of lemonade. Wakes up the next day. It's alive. Before it comes alive, he wakes up the next day, and it appears that his wishes come true because his dad appears sober, chipper, is going to have a job interview with the airline that fired him for being an alcoholic, because I forgot to mention, Terrence, his whole life has been fucked since his mom died.
Yeah, I mean, couldn't you tell he's ginger? Oh, I'm sorry. That's just that was that.
Brutal.
I did not mean it. I just think that it's a trope.
Yes,
and
it
it's
is absolutely
not
a trope.
fair. If you need to remove that because I said it, that'd be okay.
Anyway, I'm sure the 2% of the population that may listen to our show is going to be so pissed at you, Kyle, not me, Scott.
Yes, just Kyle and only Kyle.
No, I'll take it. I'll
Direct
take
all
it. Scott
hate
didn't say
mail
it.
to Kyle@hmnpodcast.com.
Like we have our own emails. That would be hilarious.
Holy shit! We should. Oh my god!
should
No,
do
we
that.
shouldn't. Never mind.
Well, I know
do-
that our website can handle emails and just forward them to our personal Gmails, whatever. Anyway, so long story short, that didn't really happen, that his dad didn't get his flying job back. He comes home and he actually just got a job as a baggage handler. He's like, oh, I don't really want to be a pilot anymore. So that really makes I love that fake out happens, because it makes Terrence seem like, oh, well, all of that was for naught. I killed my pet for nothing. And then we have the second meet cute with Liz in detention, where she's like, did your wish come true? What'd you wish for? And she's like, well, I would wish for a red Corvette, because she's a huge Prince fan. And he's like, or no, she also says she wants true love. And spoiler alert, that happens.
We hate love here at Horror Movie Night.
Yeah, fuck that. Too much fantasy. Give me
If
reality.
demons can make it happen, I want nothing to do with it.
Give me a techno ritual to make a girl like me. That is so true.
That's it.
That's called the movie Weird
But she
Science.
has to be in a demonology, or else it won't work. So anyway, the minion wakes up when Terrence gets home from school, and Terrence puts on, we get a kind of a mini montage where he puts on his hockey gear, and I'm like, is this the Mighty Ducks? He grabs him and puts him in a bird cage, and then he goes to sleep, wakes up, and JK, Dad did get his pilot job back and is throwing away all of his booze, and so Terrence goes to school and comes home, and Liz just lets herself into his house, which is always under construction, which I find very interesting. I don't know what the explanation is for that, but it's just kind of like a weird world building that they don't mention at all.
Yeah.
Anyway, Liz comes over, she sees the minion, and they wish for the rain to... She wishes for the rain to stop. It's just a test. And it stops and the sun comes out. And she's like, well, fuck it. Let's go nuts. And so she wishes for that Corvette. They get the Corvette. They go on a shopping spree. They have an amazing time. John is out cruising with Mo in their dusty car, because that's the easiest way to show that a car is a piece of shit, is just make it dusty. And he sees Liz with Terrence, and he's like, motherfucker, turns around, can't find them. They go home, wake up the next day, and all of the stuff that they bought and the car has turned to literal demon shit, which is hilarious, because that comes
So
up
good.
more than once in this movie.
Well, before
That
that,
set
though,
piece of
he
the
has
car.
that fucking crazy
the
airplane
dream
nightmare.
where his dad's like, I'm flying, but he's drunk at the wheel. Yeah,
It's
great.
a
Good stuff.
wild... I mean, because think about how terrifying it would be to have your pilot that drunk at the...
Also,
we've had
how is
whole-
the
we've had whole
pilot-
drama
how is the
films
pilot's
about it.
The cockpit. How is there air in it? Like, that's how you know it's a dream. That's
That's
just
how
dream
drunk
watching.
he is.
Yeah.
He rolled down the window. He's like, I'm feeling hot.
That's a good bit of business. The rolling out the window is primo. I loved her looking out the window and just seeing this melted ass car because you know somebody sculpted that.
Yeah, someone at the prop department had to make this single shot joke.
And it's incredible.
What do you think they used for the demon shit? That was my number one burning question from watching this movie again.
That's the other thing that's
the number one
crazy.
Steaming question of Scott's.
That's what's crazy about this movie, though. I want to talk about the demons for a second, the minions for a second, because like the stop motion, depending on the scene, is either some of the slickest stop motion I've ever fucking seen in my life, or absolute dog shit.
Now, Matt, when was the last time you watched? Was the last time you watched The Gate? The last time we discussed it?
Probably, yeah.
Okay, so the stop motion isn't that great in that movie. The reason why there are scenes where there's great stop motion in this is because it's not stop motion; it's forced perspective. Those are people in a full body costume.
Well, those full body costumes look fantastic.
I believe that that's what that is.
Yeah.
At least when the minion is in the bird cage, I'm almost positive that is a person in an outfit.
It absolutely is. The forced perspective that they use for this minion makes up for the fact that there is really only one minion in Gate 2.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
that was my biggest problem with it the first time I watched it. Yeah.
That's the thing. This is the first time watching it. Again, I only watched The Gate once before, and I never really read it. I mean, I owned it, and it's not in my collection anymore. So at some point in time, I was like, I don't care to have this. Sure. So whatever my relationship with The Gate is, didn't seem to be a huge factor in this, but I do remember that there's multiple minions, and it's like, I'm not a gatekeeper. I'm not trying to gatekeep this. I'm more of a trespasser than anything. And I was like hoping for more minions, but what we're talking about here is totally true. It's like there is a limited amount of stop motion or whatever the other animation is that was more prominent in the first Gate. Stop motion or whatever it's now been replaced with forced perspective and a person in a suit and more sort of full moon-esque demonic toys-esque like built up
so
sets.
Full moon,
and you know what I mean. And it's like we're talking about this like if for those who are watching on the Patreon or watching on the video, I have that's a guy in a suit.
That's the guy in a suit. That's what I'm talking about.
That's a guy in a suit.
That's
you
really
know what I mean? Like
slick.
that's not, and it's like, and it looks pretty fucking good.
Yeah.
Like it works. We've seen plenty of like B sci-fi movies where men in suits don't work out well, but
I would say most of the time. That's why I didn't go with that in my mind. I was like, all right, there's some animatronic or there's some puppetry or there's some stop motion in some of these. Like when he's fighting it in his bedroom, I'm like, holy shit. Like that looks so good.
They did a pretty good job.
But yeah, so yes, everything has turned to shit, including
I
what
have
happened.
completely lost the plot of this movie.
No,
sorry.
I threw you off, but
that's okay.
What
I don't understand is how did Terrence's dad is now in a fucking coma in the hospital because he was he sauced still when he went and got on the plane, or did the plane turn to shit? He said it's just a carrier plane, so no one got hurt. But I mean, like that's not really explained. It's okay. It's not a big deal. But drunk dad is now in the ICU. John takes the minion from the house because he sees Liz. He and Mo see Liz, and she explained that the wishes, whatever, came true. And so he goes to the house, steals the minion. Mo hotboxes the shit out of it, and then it attacks them as they're driving along the highway, and no one thinks to just stop pressing on the gas.
My biggest question of this whole movie: how much space is in this fucking car? Like there's shots where I'm like, where are they?
It's a fucking boat, bro.
They're inside a boat. Like it is so much space. They're pulling like fire extinguishers out from the back and shit.
Why do you have a fire
crazy.
extinguisher in the back, the footwell of the back seat? It doesn't matter. It's all weird dream logic. They now have the minion, and therefore they have the ability to grant themselves wishes, and they wish for a shitload of money. So they go to a fancy restaurant. They stuff themselves with expensive wine and food, and then John realizes that he's changing. He's getting very gooey. He goes to the bathroom and he shits himself into a fucking demon.
He really does shit himself into a demon.
So
exactly.
I've also skipped over the fact where there's this emotional scene where Liz sees Terrence at his father's bedside, and she explains that her dad had cancer and was in the ICU, for 6 months, and she did the whole thing, and she's like, you can touch him, blah, blah. So she's a sensitive person, right? And they go to the house, they go back home, and they find Mo, and Mo's like, oh, John is turning into a monster, blah, blah, blah. So they go to where Mo works, which is a car garage, which I don't know why they go there. It's kind of a pointless scene. But they're following John, who has the minion. John has completely turned into an 8-foot-tall minion, and Mo's heart gives out as he's changing into a demon himself. He falls off the scaffolding. John picks him up, and then Liz and Terrence follow them back to the house from the original, because what they're going to do is use Terrence's mom's music box with the minion in it to close the gate for good, because it's a sign of true love, not true love, but just perfect love, or whatever they use the term for. So they go, and instead,
some demonology shit.
Yeah, it's demonology shit. So instead, John takes his whole hand, grabs Liz from the ceiling, takes her into the portal. Mo completely transforms into, he's not dead, he is actually alive. He has transformed completely into a different kind of minion who is only 6 feet tall, like a normal human. Pushes Terrence into the pit, which then transports all four of them to this awesome parapet over the actual pit, which is the portal to the where the unholy trinity is, and they're trying to make Terrence sacrifice Liz so that they can open the gate and bring hell to earth. Terrence goes through a sick transformation, but then the minion pops out of the music box, and he hears the music box, remembers himself. He stabs John in the fucking forehead with the ceremonial dagger. The day is saved. Terrence is dead, and there's no sign of John and Mo. So the closing scene is Liz with Liz's dad, who is now out of the coma and just on a single crutch. I don't know how the ICU works, but
I don't know why or what.
They're at Terrence's funeral, and it is now winter. So they went from fall to winter. I don't know how long. I'm guessing that he may have been in a coma and then died, and his dad got out of the coma and got better. I don't know. It doesn't fucking matter, because Terrence isn't actually dead, because he jumps out of his coffin. He scares everybody that's there watching him be about to be lowered into the ground. Liz gives him his first kiss ever. His dad's like, "Good job, son. Let's go home and eat some fucking meatloaf." I don't know. And then John and Mo also show up out of the out of the coffin, and John says, "Who needs girls when you've got demons?" The end.
Mm-hmm. Except
the end.
Except
question mark?
There is a post-credit scene in the movie.
What?
Where
I didn't know that. I've never known that, Matt. Tell me.
After all the credits, it cuts back to the coffin, and Terry's hamster also crawls out of the coffin.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
I am flabbergasted.
That is the best. Holy shit. That makes... Okay, you know what? I take it back. This movie is one of the twos that are better than the first. Absolutely, right there.
Oh my God, that's it. There it is. There it is.
So pointless, but very funny.
That's not pointless. That means that literally nothing bad happened in this movie.
No. And there does not need to be a Gate 3 at all. Like it
we
does.
Haven't
it
gotten
does
one
everything
in 35 years.
That,
so
no, I mean we're not gonna do it. Well,
Oop! Add that on the list of things our movie night's gonna do. Gate 3, got it.
Gate 3.
Hi, friends. The world got you down. Don't be sad. Listen to $2 Late Fee with Zach and Dustin.
$2 Late Fee is the podcast that celebrates the best decade of entertainment, the 1980s. We pick a movie and soundtrack from our youth that we loved and see if it holds up today. We also interview your favorite celebrities from that era.
All in the spirit of positivity and togetherness. Check us out at $2latefee.com.
It really is a fun movie. I mean, like it's as far as like a late 80s, early 90s like fodder, and again, like a sequel that you just don't really think that it needs a sequel. I mean, I think I liked it more than I originally liked The Gate. Like I had a lot more fun with it. That scene where the two guys are drinking wine and like in the restaurant, the fancy restaurant, and then turn into the demon. Like I loved that. Like in the lull, that was sort of the bright spot.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, and it's like it still is a lull because we don't get a lot of the demon stuff. Like we're kind of slowing down and watching what a demon type thing does to a human. But it was fun. It was very of that time, and it was charming in that way, and not offensively of that time, but more charmingly of that time, which I enjoyed. Which I think The Gate is. It's like The Gate series is about monster kids in a lot of ways, and I think that sometimes that can be dull and boring, particularly for people who don't like align with what a monster kid is. But this was like a monster kid and a heavy metal kid, and already had like a pre-existing thing, you know, The Gate already pre-existing. So I thought it was very easy to digest and not overly weird.
Yeah, this went down easy. Now, Scott, if you were joining some friends to watch The Gate 2, what would you also make them watch?
I mean, if I'm going with a techno ritual, it's got to be Evil Speak. I'm sorry. It's kind of like...
Yes!
I feel like that's just so basic of me, but they just fit. It feels like it'll be a
Mine's
party.
pretty basic too, man. Like
mine mine doesn't feel necessarily. It feels off of what you're talking about, but I'm interested.
How about you go, Kyle?
Well, I had two.
Okay,
Matt. So I would prefer if you go.
Okay. I'm gonna go with another movie in the last calendar year that we watched that was like a shockingly good part 2 that no one really asked for, Fright Night Part 2. I felt like this had a lot of that, like, hey, let's get you caught up with what happened the first time, and then we're off to the races at like 1,000,000 miles an hour, and then we hit a weird lull in the second act, but then it picks the fuck up in the third act. Like, they're very structurally the same.
Yeah. Yeah, I had two only because the one that I had originally picked, the first one I picked was a movie called The Devil's Rook, which is an independent film that is very much just like demons and metal and like it's okay,
I've watched the trailer. I've never seen the movie.
Yeah, I mean it's there's a lot of style, not a lot of substance. You know what I mean? It's
heavy metal horror that works. For
yeah,
me,
exactly. It's like it's very that. But then I also just kept thinking about Brain Scan a lot.
Heavy metal horror, dude.
There is an element of Brain Scan
it's
in
just
this for sure.
It's the music and the music portion of the whole thing that just brings it all together for me. And I think that there is, you know, when we talk about monster kids or we talk about I guess we don't talk about it a lot on here, but there is a term, you know, that term exists and it reflects a lot in like the 80s, and I think that there's a lot of monster kid movies that we talk about, and this falls into play. Brain Scan falls into there with the metal, but then Devil's Rook really falls into there as like this is a person who grew up on that stuff and is now making a demon movie. So those are my double features.
All right, well, if you love the show, go and show us some of that love. Hit us up at hmmpodcast.com. You can also buy some merch there, buy some swag. You can go and support the show through Patreon, patreon.com/HMNpodcast. Also, we haven't really talked about this much, but we have a newsletter. If you'd like to be part of our newsletter, sign up by just shooting us an email at hmnpodcast@gmail.com and saying, hey, I'd love to be a part of this newsletter that you guys are running.
And be a part of our world.
Be a part of our world. Part of our world. And lastly, just find us on all of our socials, HMN Podcast. We have a lot of fun there. And now, Scott, the part of the show that everybody looks forward to, just knowing, like, what have we been checking out outside of these movies? Or, you know, what are we doing with our lives?
You want to combine forces this week, though, right, Matt?
A little bit. Listen.
Megazord.
I do a Christmas podcast. And when I tell you that...
What's the Christmas podcast called, Matt?
Christmas 365. When I tell you that the grand scheme of Christmas content every year is usually disappointing, but there's always like one new thing that kind of stands tall amongst the rest. A couple years ago was Spirited on Apple TV, was like, ooh, this is going to be a yearly watch for us now. Can't believe I'm saying this, but this year, of all of the films that they released, there was one that everybody was talking about, and they were talking about it because goddamn was it better than it had any right being. I'm talking about Hot Frosty.
Hot fucking Frosty.
You know what? Is it a Christmas movie? Sure. But you know what? Valentine's Day is about a month away from now, and there's a chill in the air. Why not relive some of that Christmas magic with your loved one and watch Hot
too
Frosty?
bold of you, sir.
Listen.
Well, Frosty's not so specifically Christmas. Is he
just
in this?
winter.
Is he specifically Christmas?
Yeah,
it's just winter.
It's just.
I mean,
it
Frosty the
is
Snowman is a
Christmas a
Christmas
little
song, though.
bit, but listen.
Yeah.
It lives up to its name. There's a Frosty the Snowman, and goddamn it, is he hot! Like that is
In multiple ways, because
Oh
he
my God.
literally is 30 degrees Celsius or 30 degrees Fahrenheit and cannot go above that.
can't do it. It'll kill him. But yeah, it was an actual
Starring
blast.
Lacey Chabert and that guy from Schitt's Creek.
That guy from Schitt's Creek.
God bless.
And also, Joe Latrulio from The State and Wet Hot American
Right.
Summer and
Yep.
Craig
Joe
Robinson. They
Latrulio.
both show up.
Although Craig Robinson is my least favorite part of that movie. He's kind of overbearing and annoying, but I think that's the point of the character.
That's kind of the point of the character, yeah.
Now, I do have to say that the thing that I was... So the impetus for us to watch that, because for the listeners, they should know that you are way more into Christmas than I am. Megan was like, I've been hearing about Hot Frosty. It sounds so stupid. And I was like, oh, we got to watch this. Because I had seen something about it too. I was like, it's so dumb, but it has to happen. And so we watched it. And it was way funnier than it had any right to be, first of all. And it like Megan looked at me in like the end of the second act or beginning of the third act, and she was like, you love rom-coms, don't you? You are loving this. She was like so like she was indicting me for having such a good time watching it, because I was like, oh, I know what's gonna happen. I gotta say, I told the guys this, and I want the world to know that I was so proud of myself for once, because Lacey Chabert is 1 month, maybe 5 weeks, younger than me. And me having an age-appropriate crush made me so happy for myself, because when you're 40, when you're in your 40s, most of the guys around you, and I'm not saying anything about you guys, all right? Like, I'm literally just saying, like, the vast majority of the population is being a fucking creep to girls that could be their daughters.
No, that's a societal thing.
Yeah,
That's a
it's
societal
fucking
pressure
creepy.
and
so
push.
I was like,
Yeah.
Lacey Chabert, who also has not had a whole lot of cosmetic surgery, which I also really appreciate. She's aging very gracefully. I'm not saying she looks her age at all. I'm saying she's fucking gorgeous. And there's a great Mean Girls joke in it. I just fucking think it's great. It's a great film. Just so much fun.
Very smart.
I have to call out, and I said this when we did our Christmas 365 review, but I have to say it again. There is one moment in this movie that I laughed so hard that I thought I would black out. And it wasn't because of a joke. It was because I can't tell if this was done intentionally or if it was a moment of bad filmmaking. But there's a scene where Hot Frosty and a kid are at a school dance, and they're talking about who their dates are. And Hot Frosty says, "My date's the adult woman over there." And it like cuts to like Lacey Chabert, and she's like drinking punch and talking to some of the kids at this high school dance. And the kid goes, "That's my date over there." And then it just cuts to a shot of a girl surrounded by no one, just waving at the camera. And I laughed so hard imagining that in the real world, this character is just standing there in a deep, endless void, waving until her date comes back to her. And I like literally was like hyperventilating. I was laughing so hard from it. But it's a great time. With how wink wink nudge nudge inside baseball and
Oh, yeah.
like I feel like they very intentionally were like, let's make this kind of a dumb silly thing.
Oh,
but boy did it work for me.
It worked so well because there's heart.
Yes.
What we've always said
That's
on
the
horror
thing that's
movie night.
crazy. Like Dylan even said like, this should be the dumbest movie in the world, and I teared up at certain points because the heart is like there.
Don't tell anyone.
Yes.
No one will know.
Hot Frosty.
But yeah, so Hot Frosty, watch it if you missed it. You kind of missed out on a fun little cultural moment of December.
Kyle, what about you, buddy?
I did as well.
You missed out on a cultural moment?
I missed out on cultural moments because friend of the show and another podcast called Video Monsters has tapped me to be part of a distinct ranking of the Dimension Extreme releases. So Video Monsters is certainly a different podcast from us, and I mean that both with love and with haste. It is a completely different podcast from us, but they do these deep dives and rankings of things that probably shouldn't be ranked, one of which is the Dimension Extreme releases.
These movies,
37 movies released under the Dimension. So the hierarchy goes like Miramax, Dimension Extreme, which is a mostly direct-to-DVD series from the late aughts into the early 2010s. And it includes the big ones are like The Feast sequels, Diary of the Dead, The Wizard of Gore sequel.
That's a remake.
It's the Wizard of Gore sort of like non-remake, but in tone attempt to do
now,
something.
Now, if I could find that movie for us to watch, we would absolutely be doing it.
Well, the Wizard of Gore one with Crispin Glover?
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah, okay. Well, no, that's exactly what I was going to talk about right now.
Is the Wizard of Gore?
So, Wizard of Gore, which is on Tubi
now,
and I do correct.
It wasn't when I looked last time. I'm blown away.
I do think that it is one that we might eventually talk about. Maybe not this year because it is not of the anniversary ilk, and it also fucking. It's a movie.
It's a bad movie, but I feel like we could have a blast laughing about it.
Dimension Extreme also like released inside in the States. Like, you know, Dimension Extreme is a very odd. And Black Sheep.
Which is great.
Right, exactly. Black Sheep. You know, they released Storm Warning by Jamie Blanks, who we've talked about on the show many times. Like, I mean, Dimension Extreme is kind of an interesting category of films. I think, unfortunately, very few are ones that we would maybe even deep dive into or talk about. Wizard of I don't have a thing that I watched. I'm just telling you that I am engulfed in this situation right now, and
you're only yourself to blame.
Only myself to blame. I say yes to a lot of things. I love those guys over at Video Monsters, but this is a chore, and I say this every time. And they will understand this. I say this every time I come up from recording, or usually the next morning after we record, because we'll record for way too long. And I'll tell Carly the next morning I'm never going to do another episode. And then Nathan tells me that we're going to deep dive into Dimension Extreme, and I say yes. But I just kind of wanted to. I don't know. For anybody who's interested, I've watched Diary of the Dead, George Romero's In-Betweener.
Is that the one the one they talk again?
It's the found footage one.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So it's between Land and Survival.
Thank you.
It's post Land, which is his biggest budget one, and then he's going back to his roots of more of a local found footage. These kids are all film students. Unfortunately, scenario.
Insufferable.
And I've watched Wizard of Gore, which one of the first billings besides Crispin Glover is just Suicide Girls. So let's just leave that on the table. We'll just leave that for what it is. I've watched Automaton Transfusion, which is I think the directorial debut of the man who would go on to do Silent Night, which is why I picked it to watch out of these 37-ish movies. It's a zombie movie. And then I'm gonna dig into some of the Feast sequels here in a little bit.
Sorry.
I guess I just want to bring attention to the Dimension Extreme exists.
I didn't know that was what it was called, but I actually Googled it, and a Reddit post came up, and it just had like somebody who had like all of the DVDs like laid out, and I was like, oh my god.
That's sort of what we're going on. There's one Letterboxd list, and that Reddit post that you're looking at right now is the existence of how we're going to determine sort of what we watch. And I think that, I talk on the show a lot, maybe not a lot, but enough about like sort of direct to DVD stuff. I talk about it in the newsletter, talk about it just sort of as my aside. And sometimes that seeps into what we talk about here and sometimes it doesn't. But just, as a sort of rounded horror person, Dimension Extreme is a thing that exists and I'm digging into it, and hopefully I'll be able to report back, or maybe not on the show but in the Video Monsters podcast, about movies that maybe are worth checking out. Maybe they're not, but I'm digging into it now.
It's the experience. It's the journey for you.
It's the journey. I'm talking about a journey more than a final product here.
A journey, not a final destination.
That's absolutely right. And there's no Final Destinations released on
No,
Dimension Extreme. No. Anyway, that's where I'm at.
Well, unless, Scott, did you just double team Hot Frosty with me?
We double teamed Hot Frosty, my guy.
Well,
That's the hottest thing I have ever
it's
heard.
too hot for HMN.
Too hot for HMN.
yeah, read Scott's full thoughts on the newsletter that we talked about earlier. But we'll be back next week with, I think that there's another anniversary that we're going to be
Holy
talking about
shit.
next week. So stay tuned.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.